What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the gigantic year ahead for Xbox. I wanted to do kind of a two-part series where I take a look at Xbox, and I'll take a look at PlayStation for the next one, and we talk about what we can expect to see in 2023. And both of them, honestly, through their own exclusives, obviously for Xbox, for Game Pass, through third-party deals, right? There is a lot to look forward to, honestly, from both of them. And I'm not here to compare them. I'm not here to say one is better than the other. You guys can do that. I'm not a console warrior. I'm just here to talk about things I'm excited for. So there's really a two-part thing, right, when it comes to Xbox specifically in this year, and that is the exclusive games, and that's also the Game Pass angle. Now, some of those times they overlap. In fact, for every exclusive Microsoft game, you have it being on Game Pass, but I do want to start at Game Pass that aren't like the Starfields and Redfalls, because you have a lot of, I don't even want to say the word under the radar, because a lot of these games are not under the radar. Microsoft is going for it, and they're having some extremely big games in different ways, right, being on Game Pass this year. So you have games like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I am so excited for this game. Generally, I would pay money for this game. Turns out I don't need to, right, because on Xbox, it'll be free on Game Pass. That's huge, and I think it's huge not to compare it to Starfield, right? Because it's not Starfield, it's not Redfall, it's not Hellblade 2, but it's a game that serves a multiplayer audience, another one of these Predator, Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight, these kind of games. It serves them, and it's on Game Pass, so you got something like that. Lies of P, that serves quite a group of people, doesn't it? Atomic Heart, right? There's a lot of games like this really throughout the entire year. I mean, those three I'd really actually kind of want to zero in on. Texas Chainsaw, I kind of have a soft spot for, but like Atomic Heart could be outrageously good. It looks phenomenal. It's just about consistency. Can the game actually hold that consistency through the entire game? That's to me the only question this game has to answer. But you look at like Lies of P, I mean, that game looks fantastic. So there's a lot of games in that group that I think from beginning to end, and I do think also like there's some games with release dates that are a little muddy, or also dates that, or maybe even games in the fall that we don't know about yet. You can even look at like a Hollow Knight Silksong. I know how many people, including myself, are pretty excited for that game. That game's supposed to come out in the first half of the year. It will be on Game Pass. We just don't really have a concrete date for it, right? So you got all those games, and then you go to, okay, now let's look at the kind of the big mainstay exclusives, right? So you got games like Redfall, which I'm excited for. I've seen a lot of back and forth on Redfall, a lot of people not really liking it, not really their cup of tea, which is totally fine, as I've always said. I think it looks pretty fun. I think it will be pretty fun. I don't see it being a game, for me personally, that I play like nonstop, and it's a game that is supposed to last me like a year. I see it as a game maybe I'll play every so often, but it's still a rather big game. Stalker 2 is a pretty gigantic game that I think should be really good. Then you get to, obviously, Starfield. Starfield is the big one, right? You could even say, like, Forza Motorsport, that's another big one. But Starfield is that juggernaut. A juggernaut that, to be fair, Microsoft and Xbox has not had in an extremely long time. Even like Halo, I would not even consider, which is nuts to say considering it is Halo. Halo Infinite, I don't even think it's on the same wavelength as what Starfield will be, and maybe already is leading into the game. Whether or not Starfield's good or bad, right? Again, we're not really taking that into account, but just the excitement and the enthusiasm for Starfield, it's going to be big. I've said it before, I think Starfield is going to be that game that breaks the records, right? High on Life was a game that broke the records in terms of, Game Pass downloads and stuff. I can't imagine where Starfield doesn't do that. I think Starfield's going to come out, and within a day or two or a week or whatever on Twitter, they'll say, Starfield is the most downloaded game of all time on Game Pass. And that probably gets broken eventually with some other game in the future. But for now, it would be Starfield. So you have that. Let me throw in one final one, right? And I'm missing ones here and there. I'm kind of just focusing on the ones that are impactful and big, and also like I have a general interest, and I guess also I can remember in my brain. But Hellblade 2. I really want to talk about Hellblade 2 because there's been on and off rumors of when this game actually releases. And I even did a video on this channel actually a few weeks ago talking about Hellblade and saying, hey, if this game sneaks into the year, that is just another, big game. It's not, again, I wouldn't even say, considering it is part of my like big games section for Xbox, would I put it on the same, level as Starfield? No. Is it the same as even like a Redfall or Forza Motorsport? Well, number one, all three of those games are very, very different. In fact, even Starfield. So all four of them are different from each other. But I don't know how big Hellblade 2 will be to the majority of people. Hellblade 1 was loved. But it didn't sell like, I think it sold maybe like 1, 2, 3 million units. Like we're not looking at like a 10 million plus game. Not that, again, and the point of this, not every game needs to sell 10 million units to be a good game. You could sell 500,000 copies and be a good game in my book, right? I love Hellblade. I think it's a phenomenal game. So for me, I put a lot of stock into Hellblade 2 because it is a big game, part of like the big games section, let's say, of Xbox. But it's different than the rest of them. And it also, again, to be fair to everything, it probably gets the least amount of attention at the time, maybe the least amount of down, like Forza, right? Like the racing community, the cars kind of community, they support these games, right? PlayStation, Xbox, doesn't matter. They support those games. I don't know how well Hellblade 2 would actually do. Also for like the budget and how long they've taken, to make the game. I don't know if it'll even be like a worthwhile investment. But what I do know is I have a lot of confidence in the team. I do think the game is going to be really, really good. It could even be a Game of the Year contender. So I spent the most time talking about Hellblade 2 because in all honesty, besides some of the Game Pass things, again, there's some games that for me, like I would flat out buy them. Like there are many games this upcoming year that in a normal year, if it's not on Game Pass, I would just spend the money, get it day one. But they're on Game Pass, which is, in my opinion, immense value. But then you also, when you look at the big releases, Starfield is the game for the masses. Starfield is the game to get Xbox really, really rolling, okay? And then Hellblade, for me, is even more impactful. So I'm not making it up. I'm not trying to play to certain console fanboys or console warriors or anything like that. I get excited for games in general. That's something you should know about me. But I really am excited for Xbox's year. I think with the combination of big games that would just do well regardless, that are also on Game Pass, combined with, this is the year that we should get 3, 4, 5 exclusives, somewhere in that range. This is the year, and that's phenomenal. Now, like I said, I'll do a PlayStation 1 on the next video, or the next time I do this series, and we'll talk about PlayStation, but this is not a comparison. Notice I didn't compare anything to a PlayStation thing in this video. I don't want to keep it that way because it's not about that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.